In non-duality, there is really nothing to teach. There is a revelation, which is referred to as a non-dual revelation of the self. This revelation basically reveals that I am the self. I have always been the self. And all the impressions of separation are sort of seen through. There is a glimpse into the non-dual nature of consciousness. And there is that's the initial glimpse. And what follows is the establishment, the clarification, clearing the space out of the residues of ignorance. Anyways, it is really through going into whatever questions you may have that the teaching is shared. So if you have any questions. Hello, Ananda. So Ananda writes, this is the shortest day of the year, is it? Okay. And I'm feeling a bit in the dark. Okay. But glad to be here in satsang. What has been puzzling me is the issue of the me impression. What is the puzzle around it, Ananda?
Well, just a second. My camera, I think I can get my... I always have to hit my camera button several times to come on.
Okay.
Here we go. I had been very delighted the way that you use that term, me impression. It seemed to make perfect sense to me that peak experiences that I've had where there isn't no me impression were, instead of always looking for that on an experiential level, that it was beginning to seem like a kind of settled thing, that a sense of me, a sense of what I'm referring to by I am going to the store, just on the very simple level, was what I would kind of think of as a me, an impression of a me, but not a belief in a me. And so the words that come to me, maybe it's overstatement, but a radical clarity about non-ego awareness. So it was very refreshing to me in the context of this inquiry with you. So now you stated clearly last time we talked that me impression really goes. Me impression is not part of your experience. So my question is, what about this interesting telltale feeling of just practical everyday me?
So that's completely absent.
When hearing that sort of throws me back into and I understand the fact that I'm saying this means that there is something there to, there's somewhere to go here, but what is it that relatively is conversing in that case?
Consciousness.
I know. As far as I can possibly say, I know that to be the basis truth. Yes. As a matter of fact, it's a peculiar point in the contemplation to say, I understand that, but I think one time we talked a bit, and you were saying that there's not all there's lots of peaks, but there's only one summit. And I took that, in a sense, I took that to mean uh, experiential samadhis, and basically that's what it is, what I'm referring to, experiential ultra clarities, moments, um, seem to be like peaks, and I was just assuming the summit above all, including above even that, coming and going, is pure consciousness. But what would distinguish the summit from the peaks was that it would not necessarily have this experiential, like, whoa, I'm no one, something like that. I'm no one whatsoever.
No, it's beyond that. The I am no one, meaning the glimpse into the reality of consciousness and not the reality of the person. That is a peak experience. That is an enlightenment experience.
Yes.
Whatever you call it, a glimpse into reality, a kensho, a samadhi.
Yes.
So knowing without any doubt that I am not this person, that I am consciousness, is a peak experience. It is a samadhi experience. But there is an experience, that experience, the initial glimpse into the reality of consciousness, starts the contemplation, is the beginning of the journey. Yes. And what follows are numerous aha moments, numerous glimpses,
yes,
numerous peak experiences of varying nature,
yes,
that relate to the reality of consciousness and the nature of consciousness. But there is a gateless gate that dissolves, that finishes the job, that merges all the pieces into the self. That experience that's referred to as sahaja samadhi. I use the term experience loosely. Is the revelation. One could say it this way, one can put it this way. It's a revelation that I, consciousness, is universal. Everything is myself. Everything is consciousness. Everything is the self. There is one reality, and that is the reality of consciousness. And that gets established not just at the mind level, but at the metaphysical level. It's a the final merging, the final it's a point of no return. There is no more return. In a way, one could put it this way. The celebration and the contemplation is unending. It's like you're at the gate of the castle, and you keep looking at the village and then at the castle, at the village and at the castle. In the village, you have all your friends, you have all the different restaurants, you have all the different habits, you have the nightclubs, and you have all the beautiful experiences. You look at the village and then at the castle, but you stay at the gate, and at some point you cross the gate. It's really a gateless gate. You cross the gate, and now you're in the castle. There is no more looking back at the village. You're just looking at the castle, and you're in the castle. You explore the vastness of the castle, the glory of the castle, the various aspects of the castle, what the castle, the various chambers and spaces in the castle have to offer. But it's all delightful because you are the king. So as long as the me impression still comes and goes, or there is a sense of me, it's important to continue to contemplate what am I truly, what is it that truly perceives right now? What is the reality of this experience right now? Because it is always right now. You're always being. Is always this, whatever this is. So the question is, what is the reality? What is it that is real? And once it is clear to you, as it already is to you, and that the reality of this experience is the reality of consciousness, then you contemplate what are the, let's say, the qualities or the characteristics or the aspects of consciousness. Because this contemplation is the contemplation of the self. It's a contemplation of oneself, of the one self. There is only one self, of the one reality. And the contemplation of the self is the contemplation that leads to the revelation, to various insights that consciousness is real 24/7, let's say. That consciousness does not have a local, it's not a localized, there is no localization to consciousness. That there are no limits to consciousness, there are no borders to consciousness. And there are no dimensions to consciousness. There isn't more or less consciousness, or an increasing consciousness or decreasing consciousness. There is no variance or variation to consciousness across time. And there is no personal consciousness. The contemplation of consciousness is crucial. And that consciousness is revealed to be innate freedom, because it is second to none. There is nothing that imposes any principles upon the one reality. There is no other reality, no other aspects, no other domains that infringe upon the absolute. So not just innate freedom, but it's also innate peace. Given that consciousness being the one and only reality, the absolute reality, is not lacking anything, and therefore is not seeking anything, whether it's seeking it in the world, in the mind, or in the body. And given that it is not seeking, it is also not resisting. And given that it's not seeking nor resisting, then it is peace. So that's the peace aspect. There is the freedom aspect in that it is second to none, and the peace aspect in that it is void of seeking or resisting. And another aspect of consciousness is that it is clarity. Clarity in that the mind is not trying to fix anything or attempting to find any answers to any questions. So the mind is at ease and at rest. That is the quality of the mind. The mind is clear, so that whatever is perceived is perceived with a clear mind, meaning with a mind that is not encumbered. And the main obstacle in the mind, in ignorance, is the impression or the belief that there is a character that is real. There is a me character, this identification, me identity. And that character is always in the mind, moving around and hiding, jumping over something, fading, joking, pampering itself, etc.
Yes.
It is an activity that's incessant. It's an incessant mind activity that is that creates a lot of dust in the space, in the mind space.
Yes, I was thinking kind of like a low-level illness. It's just, and that's what I was referring to. It's like I can always say this is
Low level.
There's something.
Low level illness. Yes.
But I do know the experience of freedom from that low-level illness. That's been something vouchsafed to me. So I know what you're talking about for sure.
Yes. Consciousness is complete freedom. Right now, whatever perceives this perception, this pure presence, unstirred by the perceptions that arise out of itself. The perceptions are not separate from the perceiver. They're at zero distance. What you perceive is at zero distance from you the perceiver, you consciousness, you awareness. Because you don't perceive objects out there, or you don't perceive thoughts out there, you don't perceive bodily sensations out there. You perceive your perception. And your perception is intimate with yourself. There is an intimacy. It's an inherent intimacy of what we refer to as the perceived with what we refer to as a perceiver.
Right. So that there's nothing acting upon myself.
Right.
Yes, I can see that uh, fact of clarity. That's what clarity is about. Yeah.
You could also say that I am acting upon myself. The self is acting upon the self, meaning when you're dreaming a dream,
Yes.
you are dreaming this dream. So let's say you dream of a beautiful rose that's unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
So you are out of yourself dreaming this rose and enjoying the perfume of the rose and enjoying the beauty of the rose, enjoying the dream that is arising out of yourself.
Yes.
Not out of a personal will, out of the self, out of the one will, the one willer, if you want to use that term,
Mm-hmm.
out of the self, out of consciousness, the I. Because all we know, all what the self knows is I. All what I know is I. Everything that you know is I. Everything that you know, you perceive, you sense is I. So everything that the self knows, that consciousness knows, is itself, is consciousness.
Yes.
This is why it is said that separation is illusion. It's an impression. It's an unhappy impression. Because in the
Right.
impression of separation, then there is the concern about protecting and safeguarding the body-mind, you see, which is just a cosmic event, like the weather, like the galactic field. Cosmic
So
events.
I'm seeing a distinction here between appearance and impression. Impression having the the downside qualities of identification, whereas appearance is appearing to itself, but as a neutral or happy thing.
Yeah, you could say that there is a distinction between a sensation and a feeling.
Yes.
A sensation is an appearance, and when you attach the me impression to the sensation, then becomes a feeling. Something is happening to me. But I use the term impression loosely, but I think that's a good point here. We could adapt that terminology. That you know, I usually use the term impression as all phenomenal impressions, but I also refer particularly to the me impression, where there is a me added on to the perception, the pure. There is a pre adding the me story, the me sensation, the me impression, the me belief. There is a purity, the purity of the perception or the sensation or the thought.
Yes.
And that purity is consciousness before downloading the me.
Yeah.
Undownloaded, not yet contracted into a person, into the me habit, the me mentation and the me sensation. Before that download, there is, as you say, just an appearance. But it's important to contemplate that there is no appearance that relates to some object out there, a thought out there, a body out there, a tree or a city out there. That the appearance, the substance of the appearance is the knowingness of the appearance, the awareness, the awareing of the appearance. Because an appearance without its knowingness, without awareness, is no appearance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A thought without awareness or appearance, without knowingness, a thought without knowing it is not a thought. There is no, what would we be talking about?
Right.
So they come hand in hand. The appearance and the knowingness of the appearance are one. Yes, you follow?
Yes, yes. And then you add on the me, and there's a different situation altogether.
Absolutely. Now you've pulled out of the intimacy a segment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a me thought, an I thought. You pulled out from the intimacy
Mm-hmm.
a separate form that is believed to be what I am. So in a way, you've
Yes.
separated you've separated out of the wholeness of consciousness a personal consciousness.
Yes.
And that personal consciousness that you've pulled out of the wholeness,
Yes.
you've identified it with a body mind, with a mortal body mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so immediately there is an angst, because body minds are impermanent. They arise in time and space. There is a concern.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to happen to me? What's happening to me? What am I going to do now? What am I? How can I? So in a way, the separating the person out of the wholeness of consciousness, it is unbearable. Is
Yes.
unbearable, and so there is a yearning
Yes.
to merge back, to come back to wholeness. But this separation is an impression. It's a mere impression. There is no real separation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You are never separate. Try to separate anything out of yourself. Try it over the next
No, without
few
me,
minutes.
there'd be no internet, no Magdi,
Yes.
etc.
Without consciousness, there is nothing. Consciousness is everything. Everything refers to consciousness. So as I was saying before, there is an intimacy between the observed, between the appearance and the knower of the appearance, the knowingness. There is an intimacy, they are one. But this intimacy
Mm-hmm.
is not an equal intimacy. It's not at the same level.
Mm-hmm.
The known, the appearance,
Mm-hmm.
depends on the knowingness, depends on consciousness. Consciousness does not depend on the appearance. An oak tree can disappear, and now I'm looking at a rose. The rose disappears, now I'm looking at a lake. What the let's say the permanent or the dominant or the
Yes.
stability of consciousness is what all appearances refer to. The reality of consciousness is
Yes.
what lends reality to all appearances.
Mm-hmm.
And the consciousness that I'm talking about is what right now is perceiving this perception. The I, that is not an object, not a form, not a phenomenal event, that perceives this perception, that truly perceives, that is, although not a measurable event, not an object, is undeniable. It's the undeniable reality of consciousness.
Yeah. it's just this sounds a little theoretical or philosophical, but it has meaning to me at the moment. It's like there's a imposter subjectivity with a small sense, with a limited sense of self, an imposter subjectivity that
Yes.
is really part of the appearance. So
Yes.
it's funny that it should, who's it whose eyes is it pulling the wool over? Because
Yes.
it's
You could
like that.
look at it, Ananda, as like, for example, right here, whenever somebody refers to me, they say, yes, my name is Magdi.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I live in such and such a place. Yes, I am born in such and such a village. But like when an actor, goes on the stage, they totally embody the personality, the personality of the character of the actor,
Yes.
and for that play, they are no longer Joe, John, or Mary. They're whatever role they are playing. You see,
Yes.
uh, but it's although the actor is playing that role with utter conviction, utter
Mm-hmm.
dedication, and
Mm-hmm.
professionalism. At any moment that the actor asks himself, who am I? Immediately, he or she knows that they are Joe, Paul, or Mary, and that they're playing the role of Othello or
Mm-hmm.
Macbeth. So in that same way, you are Ananda, I am Magdi, but there is a knowingness of what I truly am. And it's enjoyable to have all these different appearances, these different events, these different forms to enjoy and play with and celebrate with and contemplate with. And as I often share with you, it's very lovely that we come together in this contemplation.
Mm.
And we sit around the fire of truth and warm our hearts and rejoice in this inquiry. So it's not a real imposter. It seems to be a really imposter because you are playing the role, you're acting role with so much vehemence that for a moment you're forgetting what you are. For a moment you are forgetting what you are. You ask yourself, who am I? And you say, oh, I'm Macbeth. I'm Macbeth.
I didn't get that.
You ask yourself, who am I? And you respond that I am Macbeth. I am.
Oh.
You forget that you are Ananda. You are
Oh,
playing
no.
with. You are such a good player of the act.
Oh, no, I'm Shakespeare. Oh. Shakespeare. Well, okay, this is wonderful. This was a great help with my question.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your question, Ananda. Hello, Yin. Yuting. Hello, Yuting. Yin. I have I have a question about an experience which feels like soul loss. I believe that the self cannot be lost. Yet, on an experiential level, it did feel painful to lose life, energy, intuition, creativity. That can feel like a trauma. I am trying to resolve this. Yes, Yin. Please correct me if I'm saying your name, improperly. The self is never lost. That's true. It is the only constant, the constancy of consciousness, the eternity of presence, the eternity of awareness. We've never experienced an absence of presence, an absence of consciousness. Never. It's always consciousness. It's 24/7 consciousness. I use the term 24/7, but it's really not in time. It's the eternity of consciousness. Consciousness is the reality of all events, of all experiences, everything that you know, that you've known, that you remember, thoughts, any experiences you've had, experiences you're having, any mentations, any perceptions, any sensations, they all refer to consciousness. So consciousness is the reality, the gateless gate of all phenomenal events, including the experience that you had of soul loss, of losing energy, intuition, creativity. You see, the self never loses creativity, energy, or intuition. But you are mistaking yourself. You're mistaking yourself to be a person. You are mistaking yourself to be dependent on creativity, on intuition, on energy. And because you are holding on to something, you're experiencing a loss. You are holding on to some state. Consciousness is beyond a state. It is beyond all states. It's beyond the waking state, the sleep state, the dream state. All states refer to consciousness, depend on consciousness. Consciousness is complete freedom, does not depend on states, does not depend on experiences. So because you are cherishing experiences as the creativity, you are cherishing intuition, you are cherishing energy. Because you are holding on to them and you are cherishing them, you're experiencing the sense of loss. Consciousness is inherent freedom, inherent creativity. Everything arises out of consciousness. It's the only creator. How can consciousness lose creativity as all it is creativity? But because you're mistaking yourself to be a person, you're holding on to an object. You call it creativity or you call it energy. You're holding on to some experience. Let it go. You have to let it go. Let go your hold on any form, any objects. Come to your freedom. Revel in your freedom. Realize your freedom. Your borderless, the borderless presence that you are is available to you 24/7. Why reduce it to a pursuit of some experience, or to holding on to some experience, or to hold on to some feeling? Whenever you are holding on to something, you are reducing the infinite, the irreducible. You are narrowing the space by focusing on an experience, by focusing on an object, by focusing on a form. But what you truly are is already inherent freedom. It's already inherent creativity. So at the feeling level, what surrounds every feeling is infinite space, the space-like quality of awareness, the space-like quality of consciousness. Surrender and release those feelings. Locate them in the body. And allow them their complete freedom. Do not try to fix the world. Do not try to fix your feelings. Do not try to fix your thoughts. Do not try to fix your experiences. Simply realize that you already are this borderless presence. You are the self. The self is complete freedom. Does not depend on any experience. Does not depend on an event. Is not losing anything or pursuing anything. Turn your love towards the self, not towards an experience. Let the body-mind be what it is. Don't be so concerned about it. Just remain focused on the self. On the source, on consciousness, which is what truly perceives this perception right now. The I am. The study of the self is not about feeling better or about having a particular experience. It's about coming to complete clarity of what is real, of the reality of the self, the reality of consciousness, that is effortless, transparent presence, gifted from itself to itself. And you are that. Remain fresh. Don't carry the past along with you. Trust your forgetfulness more than your memory. Remain free and fresh and new. Notice the effortless openness of being that you are. Not as a woman, not as a person, but as truth, as reality. Okay, Yuting, thank you for your question. I would like to address a question that was sent to me by Wolfgang. So I will read the question. Dear Megdi, sending love. Thank you for giving your insight and sharing to the following. This being is an unfolding of consciousness which has completely changed my life. Finding the self, living as a hermit in the forest, years of peace and deep contemplation of truth. Now, suddenly, old patterns which seemed long resolved reappear and rise their ugly heads. Financial platforms dissolved in what seems overnight. Yet there is no motivation or energy to engage in anything other than what appears in the moment. The old conditioning of having to provide for myself and securing my future is seen as fear-based. Oscillations back into anxiety about it, momentary and somewhat automatic adherence to the old pattern, are observed and subside after a while. It is seen that the old ego regime is craving drama and regrets and likes to call stillness, blockage, laziness, or irresponsibility. That same old ego regime was still hiding in little pockets during these years of peace and continuous satsangs with my master, and had just created an idea of peace and contentment based on the relative security and health of this being's living circumstances. In the same time, there was an underlying fear of losing this security and peace. Now life is presenting a big gift by throwing these curveballs, and I am aware of the one who does not like curveballs, the one who says I should be happy, yet in the same time unhappiness was such an integral part of the old regime. It is the thief in the police uniform. So this is the prayer, allowing to be unfazed by what occurs in the mind, stabilizing in not knowing, not needing and wanting to know anything, a radical trust. I'm not sure if this is really a question. You can just allow your intuition to flow and share some of your experiences on the path. Shivaram, yes, this is Shivaram. Well, Shivaram, it's really beautiful that you are on the path. Such dedication, such love for truth is really beautiful and commendable. The journey has its ups and downs, but it's all good. It's all meant with one purpose, which is the awakening, the full awakening to your true nature, to the self, reaching the other shore, as they say in Buddhism. I think they talk about the other shore. And the ups and downs of the journey are part of the path, and there is a learning along that tumultuous, bumpy, sometimes bumpy path. And there are moments of deep tranquility and bliss and feeling at peace and sheltered. But until the job is fully complete, is totally revealed, until the revelation of the self is complete, consciousness will pull you out of your comfort zone and will throw these curveballs at you to release some of the hidden, or to bring up to the surface some of the still unresolved, unsettled issues that are still in the way of your total happiness, of your total freedom, of the total revelation of the self. So it's very lovely that consciousness does that. It might not be very enjoyable for the mind, but as I sense you know very well that it's the journey, the path to the self is not just about feeling good or having good experiences. It goes beyond that. It goes to the complete freedom, to the complete revelation. So you are well on your path. It's not about arriving at any happy experience or good experience or peaceful experience. The revelation of the self goes beyond all experiences. It is the revelation of the inherent peace and happiness that does not come and go. So there are still some residues of ignorance, some me concerns, and always the me concerns are me as a person in time and space, that somehow once they project a reality to the person, then there is a projection of reality to the world, and the concern about what is going to happen to me in time. Will I survive? Will my financial situation, there are all sorts of images and concerns. Now, there is wisdom, inherent wisdom to the body-mind, that in the body takes care of the body, including pain, because physical pain brings your attention to taking better care of the body, or at some point in time in certain situations, which all bodies will go through, the pain will be an invitation for us to let go of the body. So there is inherent wisdom in the body, and at the body-mind level, where the mind takes care of the body and plans, financial planning, and the material food, shelter, and clothing aspects of caring, taking care of the body, making sure that whatever is needed for the body's health, for the living in the world. The body meaning the body requires home, shelter, paying rent. There is a mortgage maybe to pay. There are certain fees to pay. There are funds to be secured. And all of that is really important to contemplate the angst that accompanies that. Because it is possible to take care of all of these matters in the world without the angst, without feeling, oh my God, it's happening to me. You see, you are not the body. You are consciousness. You're the self. The body is a form that you manage. You cater to the body in this waking dream, but you do it out of your freedom, out of your joy, out of your as a celebration, not as a must-do task, not as a task upon which your survival depends. The survival of the body doesn't affect you. You are not the body, and the survival of the body doesn't touch you. This does not mean that you don't do your best. You do your best to take care of the body in the world, but you do it out of presence. You do your best given whatever situation is available to you. You analyze the situation best you can. You gather whatever information you need to gather to make a decision. If it's a financial decision or some world decision, business decision or other sort of decision that you need to make, you gather the data. And you wait until the pieces come together. There is a time where there is clarity about, yes, this is the direction that I should go into, that I need to go to, that I like to go into. And you do it out of this contemplation, out of this exploration of the information, gathering information. But you do it in complete freedom. Complete freedom meaning whichever way it goes, it goes. It doesn't touch you. And the situations constantly change. You will find a new situation unfolding that you will contemplate again and make a decision again as how to proceed. It's important that you do it out of fairness for everybody, include everybody that is involved in your space. Think globally and without fear and without concern about the consequences, because you do your best now, and that is sufficient. That's all that is asked of you. The rest is in religious term, I'm going to say in God's hands. The rest, it's all consciousness. So everything that is unfolding for you is a gift to deepen and to ripen your understanding of truth, of what you truly are. Because it is from this understanding that you can celebrate and rejoice the dream, what we refer to as this world, body, mind. You cannot come to peace and happiness by making the right decisions in the world. You come to peace and happiness from the contemplation of the self. But you do both. You contemplate the reality of your experience, what you truly are, what is it that is real, which is the reality of consciousness. And in the world, body, mind, you do your best. You do your best following the guidelines of consciousness, meaning not to serve the person, but to serve wholeness, the entire field. So you approach the situation globally. And once you recognize that you are doing your best, then you make the decision and then you can let it go. And so living as a hermit in the forest for years of peace and deep contemplation, that was part of your path. And so it's very beautiful that you had the opportunity to do that. But don't forget that the preparation is not the revelation. So to quiet the mind, to quiet the body, and to provide the body and the mind a peaceful place and a peaceful opportunity to bring the mind to some certain degree of quiet and peace. It's very good. It's part of the journey in your case. But do not confuse it with the revelation. So you do not attach yourself to it. You go with the flow. And you said there is no motivation or energy to engage in anything other than what appears in the moment. Yes, that's very good. It's very good. You remain in presence. But at the same time, you take into account the world situation in which this body-mind is engaged, and you respond to the situation that is presented to you as consciousness. You respond as consciousness, as presence, meaning you don't respond from this sense of being me, a person, trying to protect itself, trying to project an image, trying to solve its concern. You respond out of clarity, because there is a world body mind situation. It's a sort of a play, and there are other players in the play, and there is an interaction. So it's playful, and it requires your participation. You know, it's a very common vasana, this about having to provide for oneself and worrying about the future. That's a very common one. And it's important, and you know, you've been on the path for long by now, to trust trust consciousness. So whenever there are these personal concerns that arise, which is the old patterns or residues in the body-mind, allow them to dissolve into space. Trust the universe. Universe provides for the galactic field and the gravity and the weather, and it provides for the body-mind to function. There is a mysterious field that's at work, that's taking care of business. You don't need to add to this beautiful unfolding any angst or any personal concern or negative emotions or worries. It's all in good hands. And so it's an opportunity for you to, rather than go with the old pattern, with the old direction of contracting around these fears, around these sensations. They're bodily sensations. They're old bodily sensations buried in the body. They arise and they trigger the me thought. It's going to happen to me tomorrow, but it starts as a bodily sensation. It's important that you find a way to release the sensation into the space rather than to maintain it with contraction and further thinking about me in time and space and my concern about the future. To release that into the space. So what is helpful whenever there is this, or what may be helpful whenever there is this this contraction, let's say this fear, this concern, is to turn your attention inward and try to locate where in your body is this emotion or sensation located. Go to it like a surgeon is trying to explore in a patient's body what is not, where is the the problem. So, but it's not a problem. It's just trying to look for the word that a surgeon would be looking for, a growth, you know. So you're looking objectively. You turn your attention to the body. You try to locate within the body, where is that sensation? Where is that me sensation located? And you come to it without trying to fix it. You locate it and you come to it with your attention. And you notice around the sensation there is space. Like right now, this very listening arises in the aware space of consciousness. Similarly, the entire body is permeated with the aware space of consciousness. So you locate the sensation in your body and you release it into the space. Simply doing that. It's not really a doing, actually. It may seem in the beginning that it's a doing, but in time you will realize that there is nothing being done. But what's lovely about that is that you're not going into your mind to try to resolve something that is at the body level. So finally, Shivaram, do not be so concerned about losing the peace, the security and the peace, because security and the peace do not belong to you. They belong to consciousness. They are what consciousness is. Consciousness is peace. I wouldn't use the term security, I would use the term freedom, joy, bliss, happiness, intelligence. Consciousness can never lose what it is. It is already what it is. Loss and gain belong at the mind level. They are just impressions. They're me impressions. I think locating the sensation in the body and releasing it into space, you might find this approach helpful. Anyways, thank you for your question. And
thank you.
Please, you're welcome. Please feel free to follow up anytime. Okay, thank you, Katya. Happy holidays to you too. Very, very beautiful. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I can sense your presence. Before leaving, are there any questions? I didn't mean to say before leaving, but if there are any other questions to address? Okay, so sorry, were you saying something, Ananda?
If you have another minute,
Okay, sure.
A follow-up.
Yes. Okay.
I'm aware that I don't want to do a sort of cop-out by my distinction between appearances and me impression, and say that, and kind of say that, oh, it's appearances. Okay, I'm good. It's just appearances. It's such a subtle distinction, I think.
Well, you can always go to how it feels. You see, if you could say, "Oh, yeah, it's just an appearance," but it feels really lousy, and I'm depressed, and that's not an appearance. That is a me impression.
Yes.
So. It's really important. I'm really glad that you're bringing this up. It's really important not to fool yourself. This is you can like spin your wheels into the sand. If you're fooling yourself, you won't go anywhere. So you have to be really very, very sincere. And the rubber has to hit the tires have to hit the rubber or something like that. What is the expression?
The rubber hits the road.
The rubber has to hit the road. And where the rubber hits the road in the happiness, in the freedom, the joy, the peace, the happiness. That's your litmus test. It's not what the mind labels it, an appearance or a me impression, but it's what are you happy? Are you happy? So right now we're very happy. There are all sorts of appearances. There is this beautiful appearance and all sorts of bodily sensation, thoughts. There is happiness, peace, and happiness. Yes?
Yes, and clarity. I love that.
Clarity. It's all very beautiful. So that's what really matters. For labeling it, we use language. Language is useful in the Dharma, in the teaching, to bring some order into the mind, but it doesn't. It's not about bringing order in the mind. It's the order in the mind is important to bring you to the edge of the precipice. There is a death of the illusion that no words. It's not about words or about having being very well studied. It goes, way beyond that. But the litmus test is in being genuine with oneself. Am I happy? It's not, am I happy because I have this or that, but just am I happy? And you might find that you don't even notice your happiness until later on. Sometimes you may look back and you say, gee, I haven't been upset in so long, or gee, this person just told me that I'm stupid, and I feel this is fine. I feel yeah, okay, that's a possibility. I might be, I think that I'm very stupid. And while in the past you say, oh, gee, I used to get really upset at that. So after the fact, you might notice some changes that go under the radar, go unnoticed by the mind.
Yeah, so it's not a matter of checking in on those markers. It's a matter of settling back to what's real. I mean, that's what I hear.
Yes. You can contemplate the words in the teaching. You can contemplate what is shared. This video is recorded. You know that. I'm just saying it for everybody else. Because there is in the teaching, in the words, there is a magical aspect to what's being shared, in the words. Yeah. So they're not the end game. Yeah, they're not the end game, but they're useful. They're useful gliders towards the end game. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this fact that a lot of times spiritual, in classical spiritual text teachings or whatever, it's said that it's not even the discussion or the words that's the primary thing in satsang. It's the being with, outside of words altogether, and it's kind of beautiful that we put so much finesse and attention to the verbal communication, and yet there's something on another level.
Yes, because you could very well study it and say all sorts of appropriate words, but if they're not backed up by let's say the experience being established as a self, they're just empty echoes.
Yes, and then this practice of allowing spaciousness around wherever there's a contraction experience. I love that, and that's
yes,
very living. And then it's something similar to the satsang itself. It's the space around the lack of clarity, any lack of clarity.
Yes. Okay, very lovely, Ananda. Okay, thank you all. Very lovely to be with you, and we'll see you again. Happy holidays to everybody.